best to lose the game on purpose so we actually have a path moving forward to improve our team? What does this say about society? What does it say about you? You haven't watched. Congratulations, you just exposed yourself. You have not watched. This team has been the fourth worst team in basketball since the trade deadline, man. The fourth worst. The Houston Rockets have been better. What do you want them to do? What is winning? What are winning these games going to do, man?
Folks, what you're
like
looking at is truthfully a sad sight. This is a disheveled, heartbroken young man nearing rock bottom, arguing in an empty room to nobody but a camera and a microphone about why the Dallas Mavericks should tank the final 2 games of the 2023 NBA season. Look at him. Pathetic. In case you're wondering why I'm dressed like Che Guevara in this video, I had a revolutionary fervor. That's how angry the Dallas Mavericks made me. But little did this guy know how right he was. The Dallas Mavericks should have tanked those final 2 games. Landing Derek Lively in the draft changed this team entirely. The rookie center was sensational in the playoffs. And buddy, listen, everything's going to be okay. The Mavericks win a postseason series and they have a great chance to go to the conference finals. Oh, man. That would make him so happy if I could go back in time and tell him that. Why don't you get a haircut, buddy? Looks a little ridiculous. It's getting way out of control. You look stupid. Getting a little bit of a gut there, too. Why don't we go to a couple salads from Salad and Go, hit the gym, take some steroids. You'll be looking great in no time. Huh? Ugh. The Dallas Mavericks finally exercise their demons and defeat the Los Angeles Clippers in a postseason series. No Kawhi Leonard. I don't care. I genuinely do not care. It was a very impressive performance by the Dallas Mavericks, who, outside of really 2 quarters in this entire series, completely and totally dominated the Los Angeles Clippers. And let's talk about it. I decided how I wanted to do this video. So many people contributed in this series for the Mavericks, and I want to talk about all of them. That's what I'm going to do. We're not really going to go over highlights. 1, because there's just so many highlights to go over, and 2, YouTube's been up my ass lately with copyright stuff, so I've just rather avoid it entirely. But what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go down the roster pretty much and list all of the great things these players have done. I mean, really, outside of Tim Hardaway Jr., who was not very good, but ended up getting hurt, and Dante Exum, who unfortunately looked unplayable in this series, pretty much everybody who got rotational minutes in this series for the Mavericks was really great and incredible and contributed in major ways. Let's just start with Derek Jones Jr., a minimum player, a player the Mavericks picked up towards the end of the offseason on a minimum contract. I don't think there's anybody in the postseason on a minimum who has provided anywhere near the value that Derek Jones Jr. has. In this series, the Mavericks were plus 11.8 with him on the floor with a 103 defensive rating. That defensive rating jumped 16 points when he was off the floor. I mean, this is a guy who his defensive assignments changed throughout the series from James Harden to Paul George, and he did such a tremendous job. His effort defensively was incredible, getting over screens, fighting to stay connected to guys like Paul George when he was trying to run off of screens for open threes. I mean, Derek Jones Jr. was so incredible in this series, did a few things offensively for you as well, that I wanted to start this talking about him, because I think his energy defensively is infectious and really just kind of rubs off on the team. And then you have Maxi Kleber, who, this is topical, of course, because Maxi Kleber has dislocated his AC joint. I don't know what that means, but it sounds terrible, and he's going to be reevaluated in 3 weeks. So that really hurts the Mavericks because Maxi Kleber was phenomenal in this series, and the Mavericks desperately needed him. Opponents shot 24%. I had to triple check this because this is an insane stat. 24% against Maxi. 24%. That's the best in the entire postseason by a healthy margin, and he also shot 55% from 3. I mean, this guy is a playoff riser when it comes to three-point shooting. And hopefully the Mavericks, if they were to win the series against the Thunder, can get Maxi Kleber coming back at some point during this postseason run. I mean, that would be absolutely incredible, obviously, assuming that there is an extended postseason run. And there was a lot of talk about Maxi's small ball minutes and whether that's something the Mavericks could go towards, but they were plus 20 in the minutes where Maxi was the 5 with a 140 offensive rating. I mean, they completely and totally dominated those minutes. Maxi Kleber had a phenomenal series and deserves so much love and credit for what he did. And then you have PJ Washington, who opponent shot 44% against him. That's the third best in the playoffs so far. This guy's just an absolute dog. I mean, we had the game 3, the stare down, the arms crossed. You guys know it. You love it. Crowd going crazy. They gave out posters for game 6. This is what the Mavericks have desperately needed, is an actual dog. I mean, we won't forget the Richard Jefferson, James Johnson moment where the dogs are on the way. And unfortunately, it was puppies that were on the way. Little did we know. PJ Washington contributes on the basketball court, is a real legitimate big body who's a very, very good defender and could do some things offensively when he gets the ball in the middle of the floor as the short roll guy, can pass out of it, can hit floaters. He had some nice 3-point shooting games in this series as well. So PJ Washington, a huge reason why the Mavericks advanced to the second round. Then you have the rookie big Derek Lively, 20 years of age. I mean, this dude was unbelievable. Very rarely do you see rookies look as ready for the moment as Derek Lively did in his first postseason series. He was absolutely phenomenal locking shit down in the paint. I mean, the Clippers just could not score when Derek Lively was protecting the rim. And then offensively, how about this? 12 points on 5 of 5 shooting in Game 5, 10 points on 3 of 3 shooting in Game 6. That's some historical feat. This is a rookie center, guys. He's not supposed to be this good yet. And then you had Daniel Gafford, who admittedly I thought had some ups and downs in this series. And when he struggled, it felt like the Dallas Mavericks struggled. In their 2 losses, Gafford a combined 8 points on 2 of 8 shooting. And in their 4 wins, a combined 27 points on 11 of 20 shooting. So whenever he got going and that lob threat was there, that vertical spacing threat of Daniel Gafford was there, and he was attacking the small that was protecting the rim, the low man, then it was really, really good stuff for the Dallas Mavericks. And then their offense looked borderline unstoppable. Josh Green. We got to give Josh Green some love. He averaged 2 offensive rebounds a game in this series. The Mavs offense was 4 points per 100 possessions better when he was on the floor. Their transition offense was much better when he was on the floor. He was just, a good, solid dose of energy when the Mavericks desperately needed some. Playing good defense, getting out and running in transition, making those hustle plays that really, really made a difference in the game. And you could just sense those plays when Josh Green was out on the court. And then you have your 2 superstars, Luka Doncic, who, struggled by his standards in the series. This was probably his worst postseason series up to date, but still nearly averaged a 30-point triple-double, 29.8 points per game, 9.5 assists per game, nearly 9 rebounds per game. But it was the efficiency that really stood out for Luka in a bad way. The 3-point shooting percentage, 23% in the series, just really, really struggled to get that 3-ball going, 51% true shooting. So wasn't very efficient, but the Mavericks still desperately needed him, and his on-off numbers for this series were just absolutely insane. It was a near plus 60 point swing in net rating when Luka was on the floor versus when he was off. I mean, that was by far the biggest in the postseason up until this point. The Mavs were plus 12 when he was on the floor, just dominating his minutes, and plus 17 when Luka and Kyrie were playing together. And look, it's not a coincidence Kyrie, we'll talk about him in a bit, went off like he did in the series because playing next to Luka Doncic created so much space for Kyrie when Luka, defenders can't leave Luka. You can't double team off of Luka Doncic. So Kyrie had a lot of space to work, and Kyrie still got a fair share of double teams and even triple teams at times. And we also have to talk about Luka's defense, which was very much a real thing in this series. Like, matchup data can be wonky, but over the course of the 6-game series, he held opponents to 37% from the field. Hello? And the Mavs defense was 26 points per 100 possessions better when he was on the court. The biggest swing defensively out of any player in the playoffs so far. Obviously, with small sample sizes, like on-off stuff is going to be wonky. But look, the Mavericks were dominant when Luka was on the floor, and they were not dominant when he was off the floor. So for all of the efficiency stuff and all the things Luka didn't do great in the series, he still was incredibly impactful for the Mavericks. And I thought looked much better just physically over the last 2 games of the series, even though the second half of Game 6 was a little bit concerning just in terms of how he looked physically. And then Kyrie Irving, who, going into the series, I said if Kyrie was a top 3 player in the series, the Mavericks would win pretty comfortably. And he was, I think, easily the best player in this series. And I don't even really think it was close. 26.5 points per game on 51% from the field, 44% from deep, 85% from the free throw line, 64% true shooting in the first round for Kyrie Irving. And this man averaged 20 points per game in the second half. 20. That's second this postseason, only behind Anthony Edwards. And if you go back all the way to 1997, he's 5th behind Anthony Edwards this year, as I mentioned earlier. 2020, Donovan Mitchell, who averaged 22.5 points per game. 2017, Russell Westbrook, who averaged 20 points per game. And 2010, Dwayne Wade, boo, who averaged 20.6 points per game. Just incredible stuff by Kyrie Irving. The shit that he did in the second half, especially the second half of Game 6. There's a reason why this man is now 13-0 in closeout games. How is that a real stat? 13-0 in closeout games? And just like with Luka, you have to shout out Kyrie Irving's defensive intensity. I mean, he was locked and loaded, ready to go, communicating on defense, stepping up to the plate, and taking James Harden in Game 5 and Game 6 and doing a great job defending him. When your 2 superstars are locked in defensively like that, it rubs off on the team. It's why the Mavericks defense was so incredible in this series. As of right now, they have the best rim defense in the playoffs. Shout out to Derek Lively. Shout out to Maxi Kleber. Shout out to Daniel Gafford. And really just shout out to the size the Dallas Mavericks have. They have the 5th best offense, the 6th best defense. Them and the Celtics are the only team top 6 in both in the postseason so far. And I think what's the most interesting stat of them all, they only shot above league average from 3 twice in this series. They went 2-0 in those games and 2-2 in the games where they shot below league average. If you just look at the Luka Doncic era, in the previous postseason appearances and runs, the Mavericks as a whole, 3-10 in games where they shoot below league average from 3 heading into this postseason. So this is a team that's just built differently. They're built to win these rock fights. They're built to play defense. And if you get just a decent shooting performance, you're probably going to win the game because you feel good enough about what you're going to bring to the table defensively. It's an impressive series win for the Mavs. It's, Kawhi Leonard being out is definitely some context that needs to be added to this series. But Luka Doncic was, I don't even think, anywhere near like 50%. And I feel comfortable saying that because I was at Game 3. I saw him in person. It did not look like the Luka Doncic that we've grown accustomed to seeing. So, damn, I feel good about this. I feel good about this series win. I'm going to talk about the Oklahoma City Thunder series coming up. And, man, this team is an awesome team. They are.